Hey guys, this is Houston Trong from thetradingedge.org. Unfortunately, the blog is down today, having issues with the blog, so I'm going to record this quick video to give a recap of some of the things that happened today in the markets. I'm also feeling a bit under the weather, so I'm going to try to keep this brief to conserve some energy. So let's get into it. So as you know, by the past several videos and the blog posts, we've been watching VIX quite carefully play out this broadening formation. So for the past few sessions, it's sort of been tap dancing around that bottom support level. It spends kind of half the time above, half the time below, and it's very indecisive. So it's very important here to see which way it breaks. It also coincides with the weekly open. So right now, it's pretty much a stalemate because we're still right at the weekly open where it opened up. So tomorrow we really want to see how this thing resolves itself, because now we have an outside-inside pattern on the 4-hour chart. And the question is, do they gap it up in the morning, or do they open up strong and push it higher and resolve that inside bar to the upside and it goes higher? Or do they, push it higher just to get it back in the range again to push it back to new lows? Or the other option is it gaps down and it makes new lows once again. So today we actually had a situation where it actually gapped lower and they were able to push it green in the first 4 hours of the day. Note that they actually made a new low here below that low. So you do have some fresh lows being created, but again, there's buyers stepping in right away, and this is why in this tight range, it's actually quite tricky to trade the VIX. Even if you might get the direction right, it's not that rewarding of a trade because the volatility is so tight. Because we're all waiting to see how it breaks. Once it really breaks, it could probably move. But right now, you're getting this tap dance around that support line. So let's keep our eyes on that tomorrow with FOMC coming out tomorrow afternoon. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Again, on the daily chart here, you can see we have an outside bar. We need to see which way the outside bar, the outside bar in itself doesn't mean anything. We need to see what happens tomorrow. Do we have continuation to the upside, or do we get, a sell back down again, which would trap these longs who got long today thinking this might be the bottom. So still a wait and see market, too early to tell. Make some bets, but be quick to change your bias, if these levels get taken out. The next one to show today is AMD. That was really one of the big movers of the day. I didn't trade this one myself, but I was watching it last night, and this is how I frame the trade. So essentially, looking at the weekly chart, we see this outside bar 1, 2, 3 weeks ago. So we had that outside bar, then it went outside bar and down. We made good money, shorting this. Then it went. It took out the range of the previous bar, and once that high gets taken out, once it goes above this area, the next pivot is this one right there, because I've drawn this line here for some time now, and you can see that that trend line ends up being the pivot high there. So it takes out that pivot high and then hits that particular area, which also coincides with the Bollinger Bands. So on the lower time frame chart, there's lots you can do, right? So on the daily coming into it, you can see there's already inside day, so it's going to be an inside day break to the upside. And because there's a gap up, you have momentum guys attracted to it right away. So I prefer getting in if ideal situation would be it opens up here and then it shoots up. But in the it gaps up, so people like the gaps and they like chasing it. So that's the kind of trade it was today. But this is all based off this situation here, right? The inside bar creates the consolidation, and on the 4-hour chart it looks like this: inside, outside, inside pattern. We've been talking about that a lot these last videos, why it's a significant pattern. Inside, outside, inside, and it breaks to the upside, right? So for me, I had on my watch list, I actually had a order waiting here. It popped up, and I just didn't feel like chasing it. And of course, it ended up going quite high, but I had other good things on my plate. So yesterday I did talk about Boeing. I was long Boeing overnight, and that trade worked out well. So as you know, I got long here above the high of 372.27, above this high here, which gave it a green week. So I bought it on this bar here, and then this morning it moved a good for my entry. Let's see, I got out at 378 area, right around this when it touched into this bar here. So that was a good. Let's see here, 360. What was that here? Yeah, so that was a good $5 move. So a good $5 move, and so the options that I ended up purchasing, were up roughly about 30%. So it's a good trade, little overnight risk trade there. Didn't really move up. Didn't really get up in the morning, but they squeezed the short certainly. And a lot of folks probably got stuck here, got trapped here, and it didn't feel good to be short in this area if you were late to the game. So on a bigger time frame now, On the daily chart, look at this. Inside, outside, inside, right? So which way does it resolve? Today, it tried to resolve to the upside. Unfortunately, what you actually have going on here, we talked about this on the weekend video, you have an inside week here, right? Because you have such a big range here on Boeing. This is a 43-point range, right? So how do you get out of this range? It would not be crazy to say that you could just end up chopping around in here and getting some really, some squeezes going on in both directions. So I like to just take the profits off, even though, this thing could move higher. That was a good trade for me, especially using options. I don't want to worry about the time decay. When the money comes fast, you just take it off and reset for the next trade. Okay, so the one trade that did not work, I didn't want to just sit here and pretend that all the trades work. So here's a trade that did not work, but here's the rationale for the trade. So E-Trade Financial, okay, setting up quite nicely. So the idea was you have 2 months of consolidation, and a break above that would make it quite interesting, right? So a break above that would be an inside month break to the upside, inside week to the upside, outside inside pattern on the weekly chart, looking for a break above that. And this morning we did get that break. So if I draw that line in here, all right, so there's the level. Okay, so this morning it gaps up. So here, it gaps up right there. It opens up here, and then it breaks above the weekly open. So it gaps up, then breaks above the weekly open, and sorry, I'm a little bit mistaken here. So this is the two bars I want to be talking about. So this morning it opens up, gaps up, and then I got long right here on the high of this inside bar. So a high of this inside bar is where I got long. Let's just change the color of that. Let's make it green. All right. So I got long on that, and of course it comes back, and my stop was very tight. So my stop was right there, the low of that inside bar, 49.53. I got out of that area because the understanding is that this is actually a momentum trade, right? So these have to work right away, because the difference between trading, let's say something like a Boeing where you're trading off a corrective pattern versus this type of pattern where you're chasing momentum, it cannot come back through the range. If it pops up and gaps up and comes back through, once it gets back into this high, you're at risk of it coming back to the other side and creating this outside bar. This is what makes trading dynamic, right? If the outside bars do not exist, to be very, very easy. But the fact is, as soon as it gets into this range here, that means the momentum has left this stock, and is a good chance it comes out the other side. So I stopped out in this one here for a small loss, and this thing continued to go lower. So unfortunately, the buyers weren't able to take advantage of this nice setup on the weekly and monthly. We still have, the rest of the week left, so this is not to say that it doesn't happen. So, but right now, again, you got to watch that level. You got to watch that weekly open. That weekly level here, that blue line at 49.44. If we can break above that, once again, this could be a situation where if the buyers do come back up and take out this level again, we could go higher. But for this time being, this setup did not work, right? And that's very important to understand what you're trading, and when you're trading like this, that you have to take it off quick, because there's no point giving it more room. Had you put your stop here, you would have got stopped out, right? So it wouldn't have mattered where you put your stop there. This type of formation here, it just needs to keep going. So one final thing to talk about, the indices, before we wrap it up. Let's talk about Russell. It's kind of an ugly close. You saw the VIX chart already, but Russell was by far the weakest of the indices today, down 0.5%. After having a fairly decent beginning of the day. So it actually gapped up higher here, but then gave it up. So look, same kind of pattern as E-Trade, right? So look, it's inside bar, it breaks to the upside. This is momentum. As soon as it comes back through the range here, comes back in here, there's a risk that it comes out the other side. And sure enough, it takes more than one bar to do it, but it did so in the next bar. So this creates, this kind of situation where it takes out both sides of the range and comes out the other end. So that would have been a great short position right here. I just missed putting it on because I wasn't at the desk. But that's an inside bar reversal, right? So the buyers get a little bit too aggressive. If you're late to the game and you're short and you're slow to cover, you're gonna get stopped out in this sequence here, right? So now, if you're long anywhere here, you have to be worried that your stop might get taken out, because look, it's a red month, and now that you're below the purple line, it's a red week. So this inside bar break to the upside on the weekly chart failed, all right? And we're still inside month, so you get this choppy situation where it goes back and forth, and it's enough to take out anyone who got in late. So the same thing happened on SPY. SPY was pretty ugly, as was Russell. Same thing, gaps up, leaves kind of, you know, a shooting star kind of pattern, or you know, a doji pattern up there, comes back through and does enough to take out the lows of this one, right? And so tomorrow you got to see, well, in this case, SPY is still above the weekly and monthly open, so it looks a little bit better, but it's sitting right on that, you know, if you peel it back a bit, it's sitting right on this broadening formation resistance line, right? So it's sitting right there, and right now it's finding resistance there. Q, same thing. Q is probably the strongest out of all of them today, but it did the same kind of move. Here, outside, inside, gaps up. Now you got to worry about this. If it comes back through here, which it did, now you have to worry that it comes out the other side again, and anyone who got long in this sequence will get stopped out. All right, the other good thing about Qs is that still weekly green, monthly green. So we have a bit of divergence happening on the indices, but that's sure to perhaps resolve itself tomorrow when we have the FOMC meeting and we get more volatility. All right, hope that helps everyone. Have a good trading, have a good evening, and have a good trading session tomorrow.